All right, what's up, dudes? I got a question about MOSFETs. I figured I would try to cover it in some depth and give, well, hopefully some perspective on how to make the decision. The too long did not watch. Get yourself a gate Titan or a gate Warfet. They can control active braking. I prefer mine off. They can turn on precocking. I like that on. And they can handle, just a really robust gun. They can go up to like a 14.8, and it's just really, really great products. So the depth of it, the origins, right? Why did they come around? What are they even about? What is it supposed to be there for? Originally, they were there to protect the gun from damage. Voltage, as it goes up, becomes more volatile. So, for instance, right, everybody's seen the movie where the big villain pulls the switch and then the electricity goes sparking out and it's alive. And that sparking that occurs when all that high voltage and electricity and the lightning hits the tower and that whole thing, when that happens, that really volatile high voltage electricity scars, erodes away, and otherwise chars up, damages the trigger contacts. So people started utilizing MOSFETs to prevent that from happening. Let me show you how it happens. Now, this is not an accurate picture. It's also very minimalistic, and it's also with my horrible handwriting, so I hope y'all will just forgive me on it. Eventually, I want to start making these like more pretty like, but just work with me until I get there. The original gun, like a normal style stock gun, has a battery, it has a motor, and then you have your trigger contacts. Now, when you pull your trigger, the trigger contact goes closed, and then the electricity is able to flow freely about the country. And so the motor turns on, and then it operates the rest of the gun. But this right here coming on and off, that's like that big movie switch or whatever where the voltage is. Every time you pull the trigger, that happens. Now, on low voltage, it's not very volatile, so it's less prone to charring and eroding away the trigger contacts. It will happen, but not nearly to the same extent as, say, 11.1 or a 14.8 or even higher than that. So, introduce MOSFET. You're going to have to forgive me. The diagram got a little funny on me, but I want you to see two basic things here. This circuit, and then there's another circuit going this way. MOSFETs integrated another circuit that could remain at low output, yet still operate a high output device. Okay, so that in other words, right? When you put on your 11.1, if you're trying to keep it from arcing, you need to somehow keep the load on the circuit low if you're going to use a higher voltage battery. So what a MOSFET does is when you pull the trigger, just like you would right here, right? When you pull that trigger and close this contact, depending on the style of the MOSFET, it will activate a second trigger type that turns on the motor. So you have one circuit controlling the other. That's the whole thing behind MOSFETs, all right? So on a very basic functional level, you can build a MOSFET or even use like I think you could probably use an automotive relay. And you could get all the functionality that was ever originally intended with a MOSFET for like probably between $10 and $15. Now, why would I suggest something as expensive and crazy as the Gate Titan? I don't usually suggest real expensive, crazy stuff like that. It's kind of like I said before, it's about pre-cocking, but I think it's important to note that there are different styles of MOSFET. So you have some that are in line, and it would be like connecting a MOSFET right before the battery goes on, and it's just all it does is one wire to one wire, like it's a direct connection. So the problem with inline MOSFETs is they don't actually solve this problem. You need a soldered in MOSFET to solve the trigger arcing problem. Because when you separate the circuits and then the trigger circuit doesn't have to see this, then it won't arc anywhere near as badly. So I don't suggest inline MOSFETs. And if you're going to bother with it, it's worth getting all of the extra functionality of a gate Titan or a gate Warfet, because let's face it, like, the functionality is outstanding. You can take a gun that is maybe $100 gun, like plastic body, nothing crazy, plug in a gate Titan and turn on precocking and all this kind of stuff, and then next thing you know, you have a gun that performs like someone's high performance gun. Is it of the same build level and quality and everything? No, but you have to try to keep in perspective what you're trying to do with the gun, which is something that, I mean, that's a common thread throughout pretty much all of my advice, is keep in mind what you're doing. So if you're looking for tight trigger response, precocking is going to be probably just as cheap to install in the gun than, you know, any other method you can get to increase your trigger response. The best part about precocking in a stock gun is all it does is change the cycle timing. It makes it to where the teeth pull back the piston, but it's sitting on like that last tooth before it lets go. Then when you pull the trigger, the beginning of the cycle is that last tooth letting go. The piston goes forward, right? Throws the BB, and then the teeth come back. It pulls the piston back all the way to the last tooth, and then it stops. So it's cycle timing, which means if nothing else changes on the gun, if all you do is install a MOSFET with precocking, you're still at I guess, ground zero. And that might not sound good from a performance aspect, but you have achieved tight trigger response without having to do anything else. That's why it's so powerful. That's why it's so amazing. Is like, people used to have to put in gears, the piston, and then, oh, if you're doing that, and next thing you know, you're building a whole gun. And you know, $400-500 later, like, I mean, not every gun you have to spend that much on, but for how easy it is to put in a gate Titan, program it, and be down the road, like I don't know that I would ever, I will never probably build a gas gun out of necessity, because why would I? You know, the cost is just outrageous. It's ridiculous. And when I can get a majority, if not, I mean, all of the functionality I need out of a MOSFET like that. So that's why I picked that MOSFET. I mean, there are other features to it that are particularly great. Like, it has a self-resetting fuse. It, you know, like I said, it takes the programming. It's like, you can change the fire type, you know, like whether you do burst or this or that or whatever. I mean, it's great. I hope that helps. I hope that gives some perspective on why you would choose one MOSFET over another. The main thing to remember is the circuitry. It needs to actually make a second circuit, though it may not be visible necessarily. inline MOSFETs are not worth a penny because they don't solve any problems. And then get precocking. If you're going to bother buying a MOSFET, you need to make sure it has precocking. And like I said, Gate Titan, Gate Morfet, they have warranties, and then you can get them from pretty much anybody. I mean, Evike has them, so good enough, right? Anyway, I hope that covers it as in depth as you like. As always, I can go further into it if you like. If you have any more questions, let me know. Appreciate y'all watching, and then if y'all have any unrelated stuff, always help feed me, give me content, and I'll keep producing videos. Y'all take care.